Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. I want to rise to support this particular motion on discussion of privatization of Kenya Pipeline. And speaking from the point of my professional understanding and undertaking, Mr. Speaker, governments of the day, like any other persons who can own assets in its own capacity, has got a right at any given time to exercise its own assets and property. Most of these government assets that we have in Kenya were placed there or were established using taxpayers' money. Of course, it has been serving the purpose and the intended purpose which were meant for. Some of them was to provide services or to compete the private sector in the sense that the citizens would be able to derive services and supply of goods in a reasonable, favorable price. Some of them were established for regulatory purpose, and some of them were established for the purpose of ensuring that the critical services that cannot be provided elsewhere could still be provided for. What is being discussed here is very fundamental because, Mr. Speaker, as we talk now as a country, Kenya as a sovereign, we have a responsibility to manage our fiscal space. It is from that fiscal responsibility or framework, Mr. Speaker, that the country is planned, the country is developed. The country expenditure is able to be measured, to be forecasted, and to be predicted. Where we are now, looking at the level of debt liability, debt services that we have to service. If you look at our budget structure, Mr. Speaker, one of the components that is critical there is the consolidated fund service, where at the moment we are doing more than $1 trillion. It's almost 1.2 trillion. These are the money that are given first charge whenever the budget is being expended. Whether we collect nothing or whatever we collect, when you sit down as a CS or cabinet secretary to plan the expenditure, the law mandates or commands that the first charge will be to dispense the liability on the debt. What we are talking about now, Mr. Speaker, what we are discussing now in this particular scenario is a way that we want to relieve our fiscal framework that is choked, that has been stressed, that has been oppressed, allow me to use that word, because of the obligations that are maturing day in, day out. These are most of the debts that were taken way back. Development of it had already been dispensed upon. Whether they are still alive or they have died, they have already been dispensed upon. But since it is important and it's an obligation, it is imminent for any government to deduce and to look for resources to discharge that liability. So this government has that responsibility. When now it comes to a point of looking for resources, we've borrowed enough. We even struggle to borrow. Sometimes we struggle even to meet some unnecessary conditions to get the space to borrow because we cannot raise our taxes looking at the way our economy is. And whenever we want to raise, looking from the VAT, looking from the income tax, it's only on timely basis or periodical basis that we're able to cover part of our budget. So what is available now is either you borrow. And if you don't borrow, what do you have? Dispose what you have to relieve yourself, have something to spend. Like any farmer who rears cattle, I'm sure there are nomads here, there are cattle keepers here, like Makelab and the rest. So when it gets to a point you want to pay your school fees, who denies you to sell your cow to pay the school fees for your child? It is value for your child to go to school, and it is your responsibility. And the resources you have is your cows. So this government has got an agenda to do. It wants to pay off some debts. It wants to develop the country, and the asset it has within its disposal, he has a right to exercise them to generate the revenue. Number two, Mr. Speaker, there is something we cannot ignore. The aspect of transparency and inclusivity. Remember, this constitution has provided a mechanism for Kenyans to participate. And in this case, we want to allow Kenyans to own these primary and these prime companies. Look at the companies which went privatization, like Kenya Commercial Bank. Before that one, it was struggling. Today, as we talk, it is one of the multinational companies. You go to Tanzania, you go to Uganda, you get KCB, you go to South Sudan, you get Kenya Commercial Bank. Why? Because it was allowed to be managed and run in a private, in an entrepreneurial concept, other than in a public concept, which sometimes need not to be profit-making, but at times it is service, and it's defeated by the politics of the day. When it is privatized, the profitability aspect drives the agenda of the company, and it expands. Since my time is short, I want to support this agenda and say it is time for us, and I'm ready to buy shares. I'm really ready, like yesterday, to dispose what I have to acquire these shares. I'm very sure Kenya Pipeline will rise, and that share price will increase. And that is the wealth for me and for young people like us that we are coming up. Thank you so much, and I support.